What's up, curious youngsters? After years of watching countless documentaries, television shows, and millions of images and videos online, there are still things that always surprise us. Maybe it's because there are more than 7 billion people, and with instant access to the internet, we can literally come across anything at any time. Even if you think you've seen everything, there's always something new. Senor Curiosity is here for that. For this and much more, these are 20 things you'll see for the first time in your life. In 2021, the most watched series on all of Netflix was Squid Game, which attracted more than 110 million views, and that was just in its first month after release. You've probably seen it or heard about it since this channel made its own version of the series. But with several hamsters in a series of puzzles that perfectly imitate each game that appears in Squid Game. They even put the money that falls into a small box. It's so detailed that it becomes satisfying to watch and even quite entertaining to see how these hamsters get through each of these challenges with little difficulty. What shape do you think an object should have in order to roll on itself? Maybe you think of something spherical or cylindrical, but actually there are many other shapes that could easily do this. Mickey Armis decided to test some objects like Lloyds, Epherocones, and tetrahedrons, and more shapes that are hard to pronounce, to see their curious ways of rolling. For example, this one here is a Lloyd found in 1929. As you can see, like the others, it simply does. Finally, just by looking at them, can you imagine how they'll move? It's quite interesting to see, since you would think of any of the typical shapes we're used to, so seeing them is really fascinating. That's right, it's strange, my friend. You probably already know this channel. It's about a man who can turn practically anything into a sharp kitchen knife. In this case, Kiwami Japan collects some seawater in a bucket, and you can probably imagine the rest. Filtering the water, mixing it with other substances, and sharpening the knife make for an amazing process. And even though it's a bit strange, we can definitely say that there's almost no material or substance that this channel can't turn into a good kitchen knife. In our homes, we all have waste that we don't use, whether it's old screws or other objects that aren't very useful, but what could we use them for? Well, for this guy, we can even create some pieces of jewelry. Yes, just like it sounds. As you can see, he starts by sketching what he'd like to make and then puts the pieces together. It's pretty amazing how he shapes and sharpens each part with such a high level of detail. And besides, the result is an accessory that looks like it was bought brand new, even if most people didn't like it. One of the most talked about movies in 2021 was the sequel to Venom. And what better way to represent it than with this sculpture? This artist decided to create Cletus Cassidy, transforming into Carnage with the help of clay, in a time lapse that makes it look pretty simple, but if we look at the level of detail, it's actually more than impressive. Although it might seem a bit strange, what is in this container is a mixture of sulfuric acid and hydrogen peroxide, better known as piranha solution. And in case you're wondering, what will happen next? This man decided to conduct an experiment where he puts a chicken leg into this liquid, and the result is just as surprising as you might have imagined. Although at first it didn't seem like much was happening. With each passing second, the reaction becomes much more noticeable, and it turns rather unpleasant. You can watch the chicken change colors from yellow to black. As it vaporizes, and during the process, half of the drumstick had completely dissolved. In the end, as a result, the entire piece simply disappears because of this curious solution. Stay away from the acid, Timmy. If you're a dog lover, you probably agree that there are some breeds that are absolutely adorable. One of them is the Chow, which you probably already know, but have you ever seen one of these in a dog grooming salon? In this case, it seems like a pretty simple process, but the discomfort of this dog at certain moments is quite funny to watch. Ultimately, the transformation and the contrast from start to finish are clear. Watching the brushes, the bath, and the curved scissor detailing is truly fascinating. Have you ever wondered how products and food look so good in their commercials? From a bit of meat with sauce to the most basic dessert. In this video, you'll see more or less how these tempting shots are achieved. The producers combine cameras, the robot, and a bit of help from other people to create the scenes you see on television. And, as you can see, it doesn't look that complicated However, it does need to be very detailed and work at the exact moment of the shot, so without a doubt, it's amazing. If you're a chocolate fan, then this artist will fascinate you since she creates the most incredible sculptures with this food. In this case, she's making a sea dragon. And in case you're wondering, it weighs around 40 kilos, and when stretched out, it's about 2 meters long. And you can probably imagine the hours of dedication behind this work. Just look at the level of detail she achieves when making any chocolate piece or even painting and joining each part. Without a doubt, it's incredible. In general, pets tend to be quite adorable and often ask for a bit of attention, like dogs or cats. However, you would never imagine that this one could also desperately want to be petted. This baby lamb was eating alongside the others. When a man nearby approaches, for some reason, it starts asking him for extra attention. These animals usually just run and play, so this behavior, while unexpected, is definitely still absolutely adorable. Oh, how cute. You probably already know about carnivorous plants, which generally depend on insects to survive, and even though they don't have a digestive system like ours, they use a method quite similar to ours to digest their prey, because through substances that are gradually released, they break down these insects and of course absorb the nutrients. A behavior that can be a little scary, but without a doubt, these are scenes we just can't stop watching. When we talk about chemical reactions, there are tons of videos about them on YouTube, and many of them turn out to be amazing experiments like the one you're watching. Nile Red wanted to test what would happen if aluminum came into contact with mercury, but first, he had to apply a bit of hydrochloric acid so that it would work. After that, he pours some mercury onto the aluminum sheet. In a time lapse, the result is really surprising, because for some reason the mercury rises upward, letting us see something like this. If you love animals, you probably find this scene adorable. Luna is a female panther who apparently loves the snow and going for walks out there. Her owner usually takes her and her other pet, a dog named Benza, to play together in these landscapes. While it may seem dangerous at first, there are many videos on the channel showing both animals living together. For occasions like these, her owner Clara says they have to walk a long way through the mountains to avoid people, which is understandable. Nigel Kia is a doll artist who spends his time creating clothes for them or simply making his own dolls from scratch. And in this case, he's creating Lalisa, a Thai singer from the South Korean group Blackpink, in a very detailed way. He starts with an outfit decorated with pearls, which is a bit different from what we might be used to, since it looks more like a traditional Thai garment. After about 150 hours of work, the result is incredible. Good job, Nigel. This channel creates different and quite interesting experiments with lava, and it's very likely that you've wondered what would happen if it comes into contact with water. Would it solidify like in video games? Well, the answer is yes. Magma is usually found at temperatures of 700 degrees or even 1,200. And in this video, we can see how molten metal behaves when poured into a pool. First of all, evaporation occurs due to the high difference in temperatures, so the lava is able to quickly heat up the water. However, this substance solidifies in seconds, letting us see something like this. Surely this scene makes you feel a lot of tenderness. This baby penguin doesn't want to leave its mother to become more independent. It's at that age when they separate from their colony to make new friends, since these animals are quite sociable. However, for this one in particular, it seems to be a bit of a complicated task, since it feels more comfortable next to its mother. And although at some point it feels a bit lost and confused, in the end it's motivated enough to separate on its own and start interacting with other penguins from its own colony. If we're talking about strange jobs, this would definitely be one of them. They are mail delivery workers and, as you can see, their job is to deliver mail to people's mailboxes as quickly as possible. When getting off the boat, since even though it slows down, it never stops, they have to hurry to get back on. And although it may seem unbelievable, this job really exists and is usually done by young people in the summer in some towns like this. Just in case, they give them a life jacket in case they fall into the water. Sometimes confusing our pets can be pretty entertaining to watch. In this case, Munchin is a YouTube channel that wanted to play a prank on his 4 cats. In this case, they had the idea to put plastic wrap on both ends of each side of the walls, and he decided to record his pet's reactions. The challenge is called something like invisible wall cats, and you can probably imagine why. Although they didn't understand it at first, we can't look away from the worried expressions of these animals. Leave Whiskers alone, buddy. If you ever wondered what ice cream looked like for astronauts, it's something like this. It really exists. For that, the sweet treat has to go through a process called freeze drying, or something like dry ice cream in Spanish, where basically they try to remove all traces of water from this food. In this case, this guy let the ice cream cool completely, then placed this kind of dome over it to start the drying process. After a day, the result looks something like this, and even though it's a bit different from what we're used to, it definitely still looks pretty delicious. In some countries, the cold reaches extremely low temperatures, just like you can see in this video. And what you're seeing here isn't the car window, but ice that's built up on top of it. He recorded his vehicles from inside after noticing a strange ice curtain upon entering and couldn't resist hitting it. Although we can't blame him, in fact, you can see that the rearview mirror is also covered in ice, which is actually pretty entertaining to watch.